Hi everyone, this is Caitlin at the Creation Museum, and we're back in the petting zoo today. So send us some of your questions, we'll try to answer those, and Leanne's going to take us around today.
Hi everybody! So today I thought I would show you guys how we get one of our camels ready for camel rides, and also as we're getting them ready I'm going to show you some of the cool creature features that camels have that God has designed them with so that they can survive in the desert. So over here we have Tim. He's one of my zookeepers here at the museum, and he's going to go ahead and put a halter on CJ. So CJ is our 8-year-old camel. Gomer is lying down there next to the other hay bag. So Gomer's kind of the petting zoo star around here. He's been here pretty much since the petting zoo opened. He is 11 years old. He's been doing camel rides here for many, many years. We added CJ in the fall of 2012. So he's been doing camel rides for about 3.5 years now. And we actually started doing rides with him in Christmastown 2012. So you might notice a couple differences. Some people always ask us, how do we tell Gomer and CJ apart? Gomer's kind of got a more fluffy coat, whereas CJ, he's kind of got a shorter coat right now, and it's a little bit more curly. So if we want, we can walk up this way. We'll follow him in to camel rides. CJ says, "Oh, hi everybody." So CJ is quite a bit taller than Gomer. Gomer's laying down right now, but when Gomer stands up, he's about 6.5 feet at the shoulder. CJ is about 7 feet at the shoulder. Wow. So this guy kind of just kept growing and growing and growing. We weren't expecting him to get quite this tall. Camels typically grow till they're about 7 years old. So he just finished growing last year. And so every day, normally we start prepping them for camel rides about 45 minutes before we start rides, and it takes us about that long. So we give them a thorough checkup. We check all their feet, just check them out, making sure they don't have any sores or cuts or bruises or anything. So we want them to be comfortable giving rides and not be in any pain or anything while we're giving rides. So this is our camel ride tracks. If you come and ride camels here at the Creation Museum, you'll get to see behind this part, camel rides. So we tie our camels up down here next to our camel ride platform. This is where we get them ready at. So they do this every day. So we switch off camels. So Gomer did rides yesterday, so today is CJ's turn to do camel rides. So they switch out days. And as I said, we always get them ready at the same spot, because with animals, consistency is very important in their routine. So we always tie them up in the same spot, and we always kind of get them ready in the same way. So first things first, we check their feet. Camels' feet, a lot of people think they're have a hoof like a horse does, but they actually have a padded foot, more like a dog does. So we'll get you guys a nice up-close picture.
Pick it up, CJ.
Pick it up, CJ.
Pick it up.
I think he's a little bit like, there's a ton of people around. So if you notice, the bottom of his foot is a big pad. And so every day what we do is we take just a soft brush and kind of brush it off so we get any little rocks or anything that are lodged in the foot out. And we also clean out from underneath his toenails. So camels have two toenails on the front of each foot, and we do have to periodically trim them. Right now, since they're doing camel rides, CJ. Since we're doing camel rides, they will naturally wear their toenails down. So this foot is really, really important for camels being able to survive and thrive in the desert. So if they had a hoof, their feet would actually almost sink down into the sand. Whereas with a pad, their foot acts almost like a snowshoe, so their foot will actually spread out on top of the sand. So they have, underneath that really thick pad, they actually have a layer of fat, so it kind of squishes the foot out and keeps their foot above the sand. So we're waiting on him to get done going to the bathroom, and then we'll do his back feet. So camels can be very mischievous critters. This is pretty much our daily routine. So every day when we're getting him ready, we'll start cleaning his feet, and then he'll start going potty, and then we have to wait to clean his back feet. Camels, as I said, they're quite the characters. Both of ours have very distinct personality traits. CJ here is definitely our mischief maker. If somebody's going to get into trouble, it's probably going to be this guy. He's also kind of a klutz. He's actually given himself a bloody nose twice, playing with toys we've given him, and he's whacked his face into fences and various things. So I have stopped a camel nosebleed. I don't think there's too many people in the world that can say that. So once again, we train these guys. So they are trained to pick up their feet. If you notice, as soon as my keeper asks, they're picking up their feet. Well, when he's not trying to get leaves.
Mischievous.
Yes, very mischievous. So he's got a bunch of people here watching him today. So I think he's saying, "Ooh, I'm gonna see how much I can get away with today." So if you notice, while Tim's finishing up his feet, you might notice we have a lot of people ask us these questions. So he's got pads. He's kind of got these hard pads on the front of his knees, and he has them on his elbows as well. And then back here, and then under here. This here is called his pedestal, and basically the pedestal, it's this hard tissue. It almost feels like what an elephant or a rhino would feel like. It's very hard. It's kind of calloused and rough. But this pedestal actually helps protect his sternum, his breastbone. So camels sit down, and when they do that, there's a lot of pressure right here. So this actually keeps the his breastbone or sternum from actually cracking from the pressure placed on it. Another good thing about that is, since a camel sits down, they actually have some. Their belly is off the ground a little bit. So in the desert, that's a very good way, because cool air will get under there, and those currents can be really cool and actually help cool them down. And so all of these other callousy areas are called stifling pads, and they're basically just they're born with them, but they get more and more calloused and hard as the camel gets older. But they're basically pressure points where they're going to touch the sand. So those thick areas of padding keep them from getting burnt on the hot sand. So once again, just a really cool and unique way. The camels are designed to live in hot desert conditions. So another question we get a lot is, what do we do with the camels in the wintertime? A lot of people think of camels as desert-dwelling animals, and so they think that, over the wintertime they must have to either stay inside or we ship them off to somewhere warmer. But actually camels are designed to live in just harsh climates in general, so they can live in harsh heat and also harsh cold. So deserts can get very cold at night because of the low humidity. So camels do very well in dealing with a variety of temperatures. The only really thing we have to worry about with these guys in the wintertime is if we get an ice storm. Because camels' feet really aren't designed to go ice skating. So if it gets icy, we'll actually they each have their own stall, so we'll actually just lock them in their stall until we can get a path cleared for them so that they can actually come outside. These guys actually love playing in the snow. CJ here, I've got some great video of him playing in the snow a couple winters ago. This past winter we didn't really get enough snow for him to play with. I built him some snowmen to play with last winter, and he was kind of terrified of them. Hopefully this winter I can build him some bigger snowmen, and hopefully he's not quite as scared of them this time around. So if we want to get up here, and we want to come up close and kind of see he's got really curly hair. So this hair, a lot of people expect it to be a lot thinner than this, but actually a thicker hair coat actually helps them from getting sunburnt. So if a camel doesn't have enough hair, they can actually get sunburnt. So we don't shave or shear our camels. We let them naturally shed out. And here in North America, camels will grow a winter coat. So here before too long, he'll start growing his winter coat back, and this is his summer coat. Gomer's is actually quite a bit thicker. His coat tends to stay pretty thick year-round, but he does shed out usually every June. CJ is a little bit later. He actually just got done shedding the end of July. So this is about what his coat will look like, and then as we go on throughout the winter, it'll get more and more curly. He has quite the curls on the top of his head, yeah. So if he's out in the rain over the winter and he comes in and the next day, it'll dry off and he'll have these really, really tight, cute little curls, which is kind of adorable. I think it's cute. So that's just another really cool camel feature. Hey, CJ, you want to put your head down here for me? So if you notice, camels' eyes, They actually have 2 sets of eyelashes. That helps keep some of the sand out of their eyes. And they also have what's called a nicetating membrane, which is found in cats and a lot of other animals. And it's almost like camel windshield wipers. So if they get some sand in their eye, they can pull that membrane back and forth over their eye and kind of actually help get the sand out of their eyes. Also, their noses, you notice there's slits. These slits here, how their nostrils are really long, they can actually pull their nose, these nostrils shut. So if a camel gets stuck in a sandstorm, what they will actually do is they will pull their nostrils shut and they'll breathe through this. So they have a split lip, so they'll actually breathe through that little split lip, and so that's how they keep sand out of their lungs. So just a couple more cool little features that camels have that make them perfect desert dwelling animals. So we're going to let Tim start to brush him out. So after we check their feet every day, make sure their feet look good, make sure there's no stones or anything caught under their nails or lodged up in their foot, we'll go ahead and we brush them out. So in their barns we use an equine pine bedding. So these guys love to roll around. We call it flailing. We call it the camel flail. But they'll actually roll around and scratch and stuff in the bedding. So what we'll do every day is brush all of that bedding out of them, get any dust out. Once again, these guys love to roll. So this guy especially will actually go out in his yard and he loves rolling in sand. Camels adore sand. So what they will actually do is they'll kind of roll and rub in that sand, especially wet sand, because it does act as a natural, kind of like mud does. It helps keep insects off of them. And it also just feels really good, the itching feels really good for them as well. So every day we'll go ahead and brush them because we don't want our guests sitting on dusty, slightly dirty camel. Okay, now we're going to cush him.
Cush. Cush.
Good boy. All the way, bub.
All the way.
So this is how a camel sits down. So this is a big part of their training when we're training them, is to get them to sit down on command, and then we also teach them to stand up when we ask them to. So you can see, as we talked about all his stifling pads and his pedestal earlier, you can see all those points are touching the sand. So his elbows and his pedestal, as well as his back legs there, all of those stifling pads are right against that sand. So what we're using right now is we use a plastic brush, and then we also use a metal curry comb. Now that curry comb does not hurt him. That actually feels, it's basically like a camel massage. So it just helps get out any dead hair and any other dirt or debris that's kind of down next to his skin. We use that to get it out as well. So camels do come in different colors. CJ here is kind of a lighter color. He actually darkens up over the winter, and he's kind of got a darker stripe that runs down his back. Gomer, our other camel, he's kind of a little bit of a darker, more creamy of a color. There are chocolate-colored camels, so they're dark brown. They're my favorites. There's even paint camels. So camels, kind of like pinto or paint horses, they have white splotches all over their bodies. And there are some white camels with blue eyes. We don't necessarily want one of those here just because that is a recessive gene, the white coloration, so they are prone to a little bit more health problems. This is about your standard color camel though. So CJ is a dromedary camel. There are 2 types of what we call old world camelids. So the dromedary camel is found in North Africa and throughout the Middle East, and the Bactrian camel, which is the 2-hump camel, is found throughout China and Mongolia. So the dromedary camel is a little bit taller, a little bit leaner. The Bactrian camel, the 2-humped camel, they tend to be a little bit more thicker and stouter. A lot of that has to do with the climate in which they live. So the dromedary, of course, lives in they both live in deserts, but dromedary camel, the deserts don't get quite as cold over the winter and at night as deserts in like the Gobi Desert and other arid places in China and Mongolia where the Bactrian camel is found. So the Bactrian gets a very, very, very thick hair coat. Their hair is actually used for making clothing and blankets and things with. These guys, the dromedary camel hair you can use too, it's just not quite as long, so it's a little bit harder to spin and work with. We actually had a lady who got a couple buckets of Gomer's hair from us this spring. She wanted to try to spin some camel hair. So I haven't heard back how that went. So yeah, there's just 2 very similar but yet very different species of camel. Now they can hybridize. The hybrid between a dromedary camel and a Bactrian camel is called either an F1 hybrid or a Thule. So they're pretty cool looking. Louisville Zoo actually has a Thule. They're very large, very, very large animals. So next we're going to actually blow him off with what we have a dog blower here that you would use to dry off the dog. So it might get a little bit noisy here, but we shouldn't have to run the blower too long. So once again, this is just something we desensitize our camels to while we're training them to do rides. Using the blower on them, getting them used to that sound and that feeling against their skin. They actually don't mind it at all. They actually seem to enjoy it. CJ loves to, if you blow the air in his mouth, he'll like try to bite at it, and his lips are going everywhere. It's kind of fun. We've got a couple videos of him playing with the air that's coming out of the blower. So as you can see, our camels get quite the care while we're getting them ready. They honestly probably have better salon days than I do, so they're kind of spoiled rotten. So once Tim gets his other side here, I'll go ahead and start helping him saddle him up. We'll show you guys how we saddle them. It's very similar to saddling a horse, but at the same time very different.
He wants to know if it's a boy or a girl. This is a boy. What's his name? His name is CJ. CJ. There you go. Thank you. You're welcome.
So at least one of my favorite parts about getting him ready is a lot of times we'll have guests over in the pavilion here kind of watching us get them ready, and so it's a great time for guests to ask questions. And me and my keeping staff, we love answering questions, so if you have a question and you're here at the zoo, please stop by and we'll try to answer all those questions for you. So we love teaching everybody more about the camels, just helping to give people more information. That's why we're here. So.
And if you're watching and you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments and we can try to answer those.
Okay, so right now here at the Creation Museum, we are doing camel rides 7 days a week. We are going from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 4:45 in the afternoon. We will be doing that through the week of Labor Day, and after that, we will be cutting rides back. We haven't quite decided how many days a week we'll be doing rides at that point, but we will be cutting back after Labor Day week. We also have camel rides at Ark Encounter. So if you're down at the Ark, you'll have to stop by Ararat Ridge Zoo and ride the camels down there as well. Right now, camel rides are 10 to 8 Monday through Saturdays and 12 to 8 on Sundays. Their hours of operation will probably be changing here this fall as well, but those are currently the hours down there as well.
Somebody asked if they bite.
I will say what I always say about animals. Any animal with a mouth can bite. Camels are kind of known to be aggressive and biters. Both of our guys are not biters. CJ here was actually bottle raised, so you might have noticed a little bit earlier in the video when I was up at his face, kind of showing you guys his nose, he was kind of opening his mouth. Really, he just wants my hand in his mouth. He likes having hands in his mouth for some reason. He doesn't bite. He just sometimes decides, oh, I kind of want your hand in my mouth, which is something we've worked with him on. We of course don't let guests put their hands in his mouth. Also, we ask people in the petting zoo not to turn their backs on these guys, just because they are very mischievous, and especially this guy, he really, really likes hoodies. So now that we're getting into fall, we'll have people trying to take selfies or take group pictures in front of the camels, and he likes to grab onto hoods and play with them. So we always ask people, if you want to take pictures with the camels here at the zoo, just take a step up from the fence so that you're out of their reach, but they're still going to engage with you and get in your picture. So as with any animal, you just have to be careful with them. And if you come and you're not quite sure, feel free to find a zookeeper and ask. We're more than happy to help you feed them or answer any questions you have about them. Okay, so Tim is going to put his saddle blanket on. So this is kind of a modified saddle blanket because of the hump. So these are actually specialized blankets we have made for CJ. So this blanket is designed specifically to fit CJ. So we have an inch foam pad inside that blanket, and then of course the hole cut for the hump. So that foam pad is not only makes it more comfortable for guests, but also makes it a little bit more comfortable for him while he has riders on him. I'm just going to swing over here really quick and just grab his halter.
Somebody asked what the habitat is for camels.
In the wild, these guys are going to be desert dwellers. So that means they live in the desert. They spend a lot of their time roaming and ranging and looking for food. So they're quite the travelers. They move a lot during the day. They can travel as far as 15 miles in a day, which actually makes them perfect for doing camel rides with, because these guys, one of their natural behaviors is walking far distances. So for these guys, doing camel rides isn't a big deal. They like, especially this guy, he really enjoys walking. So, of course, when you think of a desert, you're going to think of sand dunes and oases, that sort of thing. But there is spots of vegetation in the desert as well, and camels will make use of those areas. Once again, we talked about his split lip for being able to breathe during a sandstorm, but that's also actually very useful in getting food. So camels won't just graze an area bare or like eat all the leaves off of a tree or bush. They'll actually selectively pick and choose the leaves that they eat off a plant. So next time when they come back through the area, there's still vegetation there for them to eat. So they're actually very efficient in that way. Okay, so we can see we've got the saddle on, and what we do before we get him back up is we'll actually tie this chest piece on. Basically, this chest strap, all it does is keep the saddle from sliding up against his hump too far. So basically, that's all that's there for. And we just like to tie it and get it tight before we get him up, just so the saddle doesn't slide off. Okay, ready? CJ.
Good boy.
Normally we say hut hut there, but he knows what we're asking him to do, so he's like, okay, I'll get up for you. So now we just brush off his belly so we get any sand or anything that's on his belly off, so it doesn't get caught between his girth strap and his skin and irritate it. So at this point it's a lot like saddling a horse. So we have 2 girth straps on him to help hold the saddle in place. And after Tim gets done brushing him out, he'll go ahead and tighten his saddle down, and then we'll go for a camel ride.
Leanne, how many stomachs do they have?
Okay, so camels are ruminants, so that means they chew their cud like, no sir. So they chew their cud just like a cow or goat or sheep does, but they're not considered true ruminants. So true ruminants have 4 chambers in their stomachs. Camels have 3. So 3 chambers. So sometimes, just like horses, these guys will actually fill their tummies up with air. They'll kind of breathe in some air and hold on. So usually what we'll do is we'll walk them around a lap, and then we'll check their saddle and make sure it's good and tight. And then periodically throughout the day while we're doing rides, we keep a close eye on the saddle, making sure everything's good and tight. Yes, CJ. We're going to get you some lettuce. Hold on. He knows there's a bag of lettuce over there for him. He's being a very good boy.
Do they get thirsty?
Yes, so a lot of people think that camels will only drink every now and again, but really a camel will drink if they have access to water anytime that they are thirsty. So they do have a water trough in their exhibit, so they drink daily. And then when they're doing rides, especially on the very hot days, we offer them water several times a day while they're doing rides. Typically what we will do is actually just bring our hose over here and let them drink straight out of the hose. Camels like fresh running water, so they prefer to drink out of the hose versus out of a bucket of water. So yes, they get offered water several times a day when they're doing camel rides.
Couple more good questions too. Do they interact with other animals here?
Yes. So Gomer, our other camel, before we got CJ, he actually went out to our turnout pasture with our miniature steer Norman and our miniature donkey Ella. So him, Norman, and Ella are good buddies. Now CJ gets a little bit too playful with the donkey, so we can't put him out with the donkey because she's a mini, so we don't want him accidentally stepping on the donkey. CJ here loves playing with Cletus, our donkey, over the fence. So in the later afternoon, when they're ready for their evening grain, we're kind of in between doing enrichment for them and doing our evening feed. Sometimes him and Cletus will get into a spar they basically like to spar with each other over the fence. So he'll grab at Cletus's tail, and Cletus will kind of nip at his neck, and they kind of fight back and forth.
Somebody else asked why they have 3 stomachs and not 4, and if there are other animals with just 3.
So basically all the members of the camelid kind have 3 stomachs. So llamas and alpacas have 3 stomachs. And that is just how God designed these guys, to just have 3 chambers instead of the 4 chambers. But once again, they still do chew their cud like a cow or sheep does. And right now Tim is spraying fly spray. So we don't want these guys to get bit up by any biting insects or anything. So we spray them, especially their legs. We focus on their legs a lot because their hair is the thinnest on their legs, and their skin is also very thin on their legs as well. So we focus in on their legs, especially when we're spraying them with fly spray, just so they don't get bit up by flies. Stuff is blowing everywhere today. Okay. So that's basically how we get a camel ready for rides. So I'm going to go ahead and grab him a couple heads of lettuce here. Let him know he's been a good boy. This is one of his favorite treats. And if you come out to the petting zoo, usually we do anywhere from 1 to 3 Camel Encounters a day. And what those basically are is we get some romaine lettuce, and we have it for kids, adults, whoever wants to feed them, to come up and feed the camels lettuce and learn a little bit about them, ask questions about them. It's probably one of our most popular things out here because our camels, all the other animals in our petting zoo, you can feed our petting zoo food that we have in our feeder machines out here. But our camels are actually on a special diet because the petting zoo food makes Gomer's tummy not feel very well. So we just ask people not to feed the camels that food. So that's why we do feeding sessions, or what we call Camel Encounters, with them, so people can feed them, learn a little bit more about them, interact with them, get their pictures taken. So I'll him around, and maybe some of you guys can ride the camel. How's that sound?
Awesome.
Okay, so you want to
Step up, CJ. Yep. I'll do that.
So this is what we normally do every day. We'll once we get him ready, we'll take him, we'll walk him around once. That's just to make sure he's comfortable with the camel ride area, that there's nothing in here that's going to scare him. Make sure the saddle is fitting him right. It's not rubbing in a weird way or anything like that. And it's really just to check his behavior, make sure he's going to be a good boy for the day. Okay, so we'll walk this way.
So when you visit the museum, you can visit the petting zoo with your general admission, but camel rides are an additional cost. They're $5 per person.
So hop up here on our camel ride stand. Yeah. CJ had I'm going to get that lettuce. So when kids come up to ride, we have basically we have this chain here. This is just our safety chain. Keeps people back from the opening. So nobody wants to fall down in camel poop and other goodies down there. So what we'll do is we'll have kids kind of wait over here in this area until we're ready for them. And then we'll have them come over to the camel. And then we'll get them either on the front or the back. So 2 people can ride the camel at one time. Our weight limit is about 250 pounds. Now that just depends on the day. So we strictly enforce that if we're very, very busy. We'll keep it at the 250-pound weight limit. But if if 2 people are a little bit over that, it's okay most days. The camels can handle the weight. According to Middle Eastern legend, a camel can haul the weight of another camel on its back. So for carrying people around, carrying 2 people is no problem for these guys. We get asked a lot, oh, is this hurting the camel? No, it does not. These camels have very, very strong backs. These guys are conditioned, and they do this every other day. I should say every day, but every other day. So they're quite used to doing this, carrying people on their backs. So, do you guys want to ride?
I'll be in back so you can get
Yeah.
the view in front. Just swing over.
Yep. Swing your leg up and over.
Ooh.
Okay. Step away, CJ.
Step away, CJ.
It's got a really long stride. It's really fluffy.
Yeah, it is. So now you've kind of seen what it's like to ride a camel at the Creation Museum.
Ooh. It's fun.
Okay, so you guys need to come out and ride either CJ or Gummer the camel, or go to Ark Encounter and ride one of the camels down at Ark. It's a lot of fun, and when you come out, feel free to ask any of the people leading the camel any questions you want about the camels, and they'll try to answer. If they don't know, they will say, I don't know, and then they'll find out for the next time. I've had several questions on camel rides that I've been like, I don't know, but I'll find out. And so I've actually learned quite a lot of information from guests asking questions that I've got to go and find the answer to. So if we have any other questions, if not, we'll let CJ get back to his day.
Somebody asked how they can support CJ.
Come out and ride him.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Leanne. Thank you so much, everyone, and we hope to see you here for Camel Ride soon.